Welcome to Coffee Break, where I go over the most interesting coffee industry news, podcasts, and resources weekly. My name is Bubba, and I take the time to scour the web for those hidden and not so hidden gems so you don't have to. If you like coffee and you want to hear more of this kind of content, please hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications to receive updates as soon as they drop. In today's episode, we'll be going over Vietnam lockdown adds to global coffee supply concerns. Coffee prices haven't been this high in 4 years. First Taiwan private collection auction fetches $94.50 average per pound. Coffee Quality Institute to incorporate flavor-active sensory solutions. Diedrich Roasters grows with Chicago offices and education center. We will also go over some of my favorite podcasts for the week, as well as some events and some additional resources. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's dive into our first story. Vietnam lockdown adds to global coffee supply concerns. Vietnam has added to concerns over global supplies of coffee as the Southeast Asian country's biggest city remains in lockdown. Wholesale Robusta bean prices have risen by about 50% so far for the year. The lockdown of the southeastern city of Ho Chi Minh means Vietnam's exporters are struggling to transport goods, including coffee beans, to ports for shipment around the world. The travel restrictions present yet another problem to exporters already faced with a serious shortage of shipping containers and soaring freight costs. The issues faced by Vietnamese producers are just the latest problem to hit the coffee industry. Brazil, the world's largest producer of premium Arabica coffee beans, has seen its crops impacted by drought and frosts. The worst frosts in Brazil since 1994 have sent the cost of unroasted coffee beans to the highest level seen in close to 7 years. According to reports, the frost damage was so severe that some coffee farmers may need to replant trees, which could mean that it takes them up to 3 years to resume production. Next up, coffee prices haven't been this high in 4 years. After surging in the spring, the prices of goods like lumber, corn, and soybeans have come back down to earth. Coffee is headed in the opposite direction. What's happening? Features of Robusta coffee, which is often used to make espresso, recently jumped as high as $2,024 per ton, their highest level in 4 years. Analysts are pointing to adverse weather in Brazil as well as restrictions in Vietnam. It is the largest coffee producer in the world, Warren Patterson, ING's head of commodity strategy, said. They've been hit with quite a bad drought this year, and it's been followed by frost, which has severely harmed the country's coffee trees. What this means. Companies like Starbucks buy coffee ahead of time and have hedging strategies in place to lock in prices. J.M. Smucker, which owns the Folgers and Dunkin' coffee brands, said last week that rising costs will still affect its business, especially since it's already contending with more expensive transportation and packaging. Consumers could pay some of the difference. JDE Peet's, whose coffee portfolio includes Peet's Coffee and Stumptown, said earlier this month that it has some hedging in place, but was thinking hard about its pricing strategy. And our next story is First Taiwan private collection auction fetches $94.50 average per pound. Featuring 9 high-scoring microlots of green coffee, the first ever Taiwan private collection auction resulted in an average per pound bid of $94.50, while signaling strong interest from both domestic and international buyers. Overall, 20 companies from Taiwan, the United States, France, Japan, Canada, and Saudi Arabia combined to offer winning bids totaling more than $51,000 for some 540 pounds of coffee. The winning coffee, a natural produced geisha, scored 89.77. Zhu Wu Mountain also produced the third place lot, a honey processed geisha. While Taiwan has a rapidly growing specialty coffee industry with strong consumer interest, the event marked a major occasion for Taiwanese coffee producers. Coffee has been commercially cultivated on the island for more than 100 years. Although recent years has seen increased farm and post-harvest processing investments through various public and private schemes. This is the first time my coffee is put on an international auction. This was strange and exciting at the same time, and even more so when we watched the numbers go up during the live auction. Ho Ti Chen of Amber Coffee Estates, producer of the second highest scoring lot, said in an announcement from ACE, "I'm glad coffee received much recognition by coffee professionals around the world, and I hope one day Taiwan will become a world-renowned coffee origin." Our next story, Coffee Quality Institute to incorporate flavor active sensory solutions. The California based Coffee Quality Institute, CQI, will be incorporating solutions provided by UK based Flavor Active, styled as Flavor Active, in its ongoing training and calibration programs. The nonprofit CQI is known in large part for its Q Grader certification program for coffee tasting and development professionals, including Q Arabica, Q Robusta, and Q Processing certifications. The group has historically also offered tailored expertise in technical services in coffee quality development projects. Flavor Active, which launched more than 20 years ago, offering quality control and analysis solutions in the beer industry, has since expanded to include major clients throughout the beverage industry. The firm produces physical capsules that impart a specific attribute, including defects, associated with beverages, in this case coffee. These flavor reference points, or standards, are then used in calibration led by Flavor Active through its in-house calibration scheme. The Flavor Active calibration platform won a Specialty Coffee Association Best New Product Award in the technology category last year. Flavor Active, back in 2017, introduced 24 of its flavor reference capsules specifically for the coffee industry. The standards were correlated with the Coffee Sensory Lexicon Project, as led by World Coffee Research, Kansas State University researchers, and the SCA through its revised Coffee Taster's Flavor Wheel. Long-term values I see benefiting coffee evaluation in general is to differentiate a defect from an off flavor and calibrate to their respective flavor profiles, Todd Arnett, manager of CQI's Quality Evaluation Program, said in an announcement of Flavor Active Partnership. Another opportunity is to use these tools to quantify the global language of coffee quality. The capsules formed a globally consistent foundation for flavors that we can then further explore in greater detail in a regional and cultural context. Last story, Diedrich Roasters grows with Chicago offices and education center. Ohio-based commercial roasting equipment manufacturer Diedrich Roasters has unveiled a new Midwest headquarters and education center in Chicago's north suburbs. Opened this summer and co-inhabited by the coffee roasting consultancy Fire Dancers Coffee Consultants, the 5,000 square foot facility in Schaumburg serves as offices and a showroom for Diedrich and its commercial equipment, while also hosting a broad range of educational programming and training. The public is welcome to the facility by appointment. Just last year, Diedrich opened its shiny new factory and headquarters in Ponderay, Idaho, signaling a renewed focus on both smaller commercial roasting operations and larger industrial clients. Current course offerings at the Chicagoland facility can be found in the link, and I'll post a link in the description below. And next up, we have some events. We just passed the 80-year celebration of the birth of the Chemex. Always a fun piece of brewing equipment to use. Next up, we have the SCA's U.S. chapter calls to postpone U.S. Coffee Championships in New Orleans. The United States chapter of the Specialty Coffee Association has issued an open letter seeking to postpone the United States Coffee Championships, which are currently scheduled to begin later this month in New Orleans. The group said it is currently working closely with the SCA, which has to this point remained firm in its intentions to hold the annual national competition events alongside the upcoming Specialty Coffee Expo, scheduled to run September 30th through October 2nd. The U.S. chapter cited the ongoing pandemic, relatively high rates of infection in New Orleans, and the recent tragedy caused by Hurricane Ida as contributing factors towards wishing to postpone the competitions. The SCA recently announced safety measures for the SCA Expo and surrounding events, including mask requirements and proof of negative test upon show entry, but not proof of vaccination. Outside of the 2020 U.S. Barista and Brewers Cup Championships, which took place in February of that year, neither U.S. Coffee Championships nor the Specialty Coffee Expo have taken place since March and April of 2019. Moving on to a couple of my favorite podcasts for this week. One is from Socialist Barista. The topic is what brings us back to the grind. So the Socialist Barista crew talk about what pushes them away from the coffee industry, but also what keeps them coming back. Really interesting conversation. And my next podcast for the week is the Daily Coffee Pro with host Lee Safar. She touched on a couple really interesting topics I know that I personally had to come to terms with. So really good listen if you want to be challenged a little bit. And my last podcast pick is the Cat and Cloud podcast. The owners of Cat and Cloud discuss what goes on behind the scenes of their operation. Just a really interesting insight into what it takes to create a really solid company and brand, and interesting to learn everything that they do for their employees to make sure that they're being taken care of. And in some additional resources, I have linked the Barista magazine, which is found here. I found a really interesting article that reads Resilient Coffee Species Rediscovered After 100 Years is a once in a lifetime scientific discovery. Really cool stuff going on. Really curious to see what happens with this down the road. And I don't know about you, but I love board games. And this is one that I found that is really interesting that has a coffee shop barista focus. The descriptor reads, you are a seasoned barista, skilled to the craft of coffee. You've had it with your day job and set out to open your own cafe in the beautiful, diverse, and thriving city of Berlin. Competing against other rival cafes, you set out to be the best no matter the cost. In Seize the Bean, players compete to get the most good reviews by the end of the game. They do so by successfully serving customers in their line. Each turn will provide them limited actions, which they can use to attract certain types of customers, gain resources, or even boost their actions for more effective results. By looking for opportunities in the ever-changing city, the players can take the right products and upgrades and build their shop and clientele to victory. Just seems like a really interesting game. Thought I'd share it. And the last thing I found that I came across from the SCA is this support coffee people affected by Hurricane Ida post that came out. So the SCA is working with the U.S. chapter of New Orleans coffee community to figure out how best to support coffee people affected by the recent landfall of Hurricane Ida in the state of Louisiana. If you're a member of the New Orleans coffee community and want to get in touch with us, please reach out to the U.S. chapter at uschapter@sca.coffee. If you're looking to help or donate, I'll put a link in the description. Everything should be here. You can support local coffee shops or local organizations and charities in the neighboring areas. Okay, and that's all I have for today. But if you like what I covered or want me to go over any additional resources or topics, let me know in the comments. Once again, my name is Bubba, and I hope you enjoyed your coffee break. Till next time.